Well, it depends on what size, you know.
Thank you. He's been mad, like his he fits it to our family. Our parents were friends. My mother and his mother were friends.
Is John not with us anymore?
That's why I mean, that name is a.
Ignatius?
Name, like Vegas, yeah, right.
Yeah, he sent out a message this morning saying he wasn't going to be able to make it.
Just ran into him.
And I know
our
Is this on the
spouses
agenda?
were gone and,
Oh, so he lost her.
Oh, the bike ride, I'm sorry.
she's been gone now almost a year, and I quite understand. It was a perfect fit. So,
Right.
thank
I
you.
really am.
Thank you.
For both of you.
I'm very lucky. I call myself lucky in love.
Yeah, we need to make sure that, because that's not what the picture shows in the
So, I mean,
application.
you have that's rookie, that's real rough.
Yeah. Yeah.
This wasn't in the work
I was
session.
by there this morning.
This email.
No, we live,
This email was
sat
sent to you at the
down.
work
We had a
session.
house over there, kind of
Okay.
a horse farm.
Because the one we were talking about,
Is it county? I mean, is it parish or is it?
City.
Oh, it's still, so that's for each is all the way out.
We came to the work session, so I only
Gotcha,
printed it
that's
out
the way I-
from the work session.
So they're not
No, I'm
putting
sure
it
you
in
jumped
that
in.
space
Oh,
adjacent
yeah.
to the building between the
Is she in
windows?
that area or are you a little bit before
Looks
her?
like it's
So she's
Further
like,
south.
Yeah.
she's actually a
That
little.
side, it says the green.
I'm not that far out.
Gotcha, you're right for Forbes Farm, okay.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah, everybody knows Jones.
A bit there from when I was
Oh, me
there.
too.
I don't know, do we have a picture of the new station?
What do you think?
Well, I live in the, for that project,
You usually have a large audience,
Cherry Street.
No.
participants?
no,
Something going on, I don't know.
well,
You never know.
Yeah, really?
I'd love to wait for Sean, but we got to get moving.
Shauna said she was on the web.
Well, I'm not gonna be, I'm not gonna,
I was
be a minute. There's Sean.
It's actually not our jurisdiction.
Oh, you're across the street. Well, that's why I was talking to you.
No, we're in, see, this is all, in fact, if the.
Oh, you're across the street.
If the fact, no, if the district, if the structure matches the district, we have,
Are you ready?
we have to.
I can. This is hard to understand.
Projects.
Yeah, exactly. All right. This is a call to order for the Hammond Historic District Commission for June 17th, 2020 at 11 a.m. Can I get the verification of meeting notice? Thank you. Roll call.
Jessica Shirey,
Present.
Shauna Seals. Here. Ryan Falk,
Here.
Susan Seal,
Here.
John Exnicius, Jen White, Roy Blackwood.
Here.
All right. Next, we have approval of minutes from May 20th, 2020.
Motion to approve.
Well, before that, I do have one comment.
Okay.
Page 16, there's a 12th bullet from the bottom. There's a typo, I think. The word with should be white.
Oh, changed to white.
That's all I had though. All right. Any other comments or? So with that correction, I'll second the motion.
Okay. Mrs. Shirey,
I abstained because I was not present at last meeting.
Mrs. Seals,
Yeah.
Mr. Falk,
Yes?
Mrs. Seal,
Yes.
Mr. Blackwood.
I wasn't part of the commission at that point, so I have to abstain.
I didn't even watch it in the video. It was online, but I didn't watch it. I read the minutes, but I didn't watch the video. Did you watch it?
Does it
Well,
pass?
then we'll have to table the approval of minutes for next time.
Okay.
Or I don't know if the abstention counts, but
I'm not sure either.
Okay. Well, let's table it till next time. Let's move on to new business.
You have to make a motion to table.
You have to make.
Oh, I'm sorry, motion to table?
Second.
Second.
Well, second by Jessica.
Jessica Shari. All right, Mrs. Shari,
Yes.
Mrs. Seals,
Yes.
Mr. Falk,
Yes.
Mrs. Seal,
I guess my daughter.
yes, is that a yes? Mr. Blackwood,
Yes.
okay.
All right. Now, new business, and before we get started, it seems like we have a few people in the audience here, so we're going to limit public input to 3 minutes. Let's start with, 111 North Oak Street, exterior renovations.
I submitted an application, oh, I'm sorry, hold on. My name is Daniel Laborde. I'm the owner of the building of 111 North Oak Street. I submitted an application to the board here to clean and seal the exterior of the brick of the building. I also submitted information from a company called Prosoco, which details what the products are used for. They make a multitude of products that clean and restore old and new brick.
Right. We had some discussion about this one on Friday's work session. And in general, the cleaning and the waterproofing is not an issue. The issue that we had is the use of the siloxane. I know it's been,
Excuse me, the washing and the cleaning may be an issue according to guidelines.
For the
We did
pressure.
talk about that, the pressure, and there needs to be a valid reason for
well,
using the chemicals.
the pressure is an issue. What pressure?
Well, so Prosoco does have a data sheet with one of their cleaning products to use less than 1,000 pounds of PSI, and to also manually agitate it with a brush.
Okay, you're cleaning, well, the Sure Clean. So this product you're using to clean and to waterproof?
Well, it's two different products made
Right,
by the
Sure
same
Clean.
manufacturer.
Right.
Is there any pressing need to do this, or just cosmetic?
So, forgive me on the date, but back earlier this year, we replaced the roof of that building, and when we pulled out the secondary drains to replace the secondary drain or emergency overflow drains, there was some brick missing behind those scuppers, and we didn't replace the brick at the time. What happened with the retrofit roof is it raised the drains as well. So it forced water out of that exterior scupper, which in turn put water on the backside of the property, which we didn't know at the time that it was going to do that, because the drain takes the water and puts it out to the road into the storm water management. So because of that, it was forcing water into the building, because there's deterioration behind that plate that was hiding all of that damage that we didn't know of. Since immediately after that, what we did is we put another piece of a TPO roof to raise the secondary drain, which again forced the water back to the primary drain, which forces the water where it's supposed to go. So we really just have a temporary patch on it now. If I remove that scupper, that secondary drain, or put it back where it is, then I'm going to force water back in the building.
So this is to protect.
Right.
Did the roof did you guys put an application in for your roof?
We were told by the city we didn't have to, because it wasn't an exterior, it wasn't a visual modification, and we were having roof problems. So the city gave us a permit.
Well, it still needs to be submitted when that happens.
Those are the kinds of things that we can look at too, to help to guide you so that we don't run into the problems with.
Again, the contractor went to the city, asked those specific questions.
I understand that.
You know,
So
I
that
didn't
was
pull the
guidance that they
permit.
were given. I understand.
Yeah, that was correct.
On that, well, let's get back to the cleaning. So, I mean, you're asking, I see in the application, you're asking what is the recommended pressure?
Right, if you had guidelines, we can follow those
Who,
guidelines.
do you have a contractor that you're using?
Yes,
Okay. I mean, I think we would recommend under, it really needs to be a low pressure
okay.
for the cleaning. Huh? Yeah, I mean, it needs to be closer to less than 500 PSI, definitely. But we need to look at that.
It says it in the guidelines.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
Bring it up.
It says, it's highlighted, 1, 2, 3, fourth bullet, cleaning with a low pressure, 500 pounds per square inch or less.
Right,
It
so
says-
less, 500 or less.
Okay.
PSI.
Yeah,
The problem that I brought up was the siloxane. I mean, that product, I mean, has a tendency on some masonry to darken that masonry. So, I mean, would you be open to using just a straight
yeah,
silane?
again, Prosoco has, you know,
Yeah,
5 or 6 different products that can help with this application.
Right.
You know, this is just one of them that we felt would best fit the need of the building. So we can, again, look again
if
and
you're
see.
open to just a straight silane, they have several products that are straight silanes that are
Okay,
non-staining, doesn't change the appearance of the masonry, and is penetrating, waterproofing, that and it need to be a minimum, I think, of 40% is what,
Would you be able
In
to
practice that
do
we
test
typically do.
patterns of the different products on the back where it doesn't show, or is that just not a good idea?
well, they're not compatible products, so-
Oh, I see.
yeah.
so you gotta be careful with that.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I would agree to that. Again, we're just trying to preserve and stop water from
Yeah,
intruding.
no, and we're on board with that. I mean, it's done all the time in buildings downtown, within the district to clean and protect, but you just gotta be careful on the chemical that, which sealage or waterproofer that you use.
Ryan,
Right.
what is the general, I mean, the spectrum that it would change the color of the brick? It still remains brick.
It still remains
It's not
brick,
like
but
painting.
it's not like paint, but it just changes the sheen, changes the color slightly to
Yeah, and I
darker, lighter.
I don't
but
want to
it's-
put
it couldn't-
I
it
want
may
to put
not
a
be
matte
consistent.
finish. I don't want to change the look. I don't
Right.
want to put a gloss or semi-gloss.
That's why I'm recommending something like just a straight silane
Right.
product, which Prosoco has, and there's several other companies that have that.
Correct, yes, yeah.
So if you're open to that, I mean, I would recommend that we make a motion to.
One
amend the
last
application, and
question.
There's other comments that we.
Would you like me to submit the product to Ms. Garcia?
Yes.
And then y'all could have a,
Really, that would be for record if everyone's on board with that, to
Inventory purposes.
identify that.
Right, we just
product that
identify
you're
it.
using. Yeah.
okay.
I mean, I'm not trying to be controversial, but if the only difference between the silane and the siloxane is a slight change in the tint of the color of the brick, it's not, if it's all consistent, I mean, it's not like he's painting it, he's still protecting it.
Mhm.
So to me, that would be more of I don't know that,
You know, it is a logistical problem, you know, so I wouldn't want to have to do this every several years.
Right.
Just trying to get some longevity out of it because, you know, we have neighboring buildings, we have, you know,
Do you
parking
know
lot
when the
next
last
door.
time this has been done?
No, sir, I've owned the building 5 years and I could tell you, you know, there's spots in the building where, you know, previous owners or maintenance people put caulk in the joint. I don't know why they would do that, but
Right.
in the mortar.
correct, yes.
Okay. So I just don't know that it necessarily needs to be amended to make him do that if he hasn't even explored that particular product himself. It would be open to.
Again, this product was a recommendation of the contractor, not something that I
That's just.
Right.
arbitrarily
Like I
just.
said, it felt like it was not, I mean, I don't know, I'm trying to,
I mean, I think we would be open to that as long as if you would, I mean, I'd ask you to consider that as a different product to use on that.
and just let us know.
My ultimate goal was to try to get a product that lasted a
Right.
long time.
And they're all going to last about the same duration in that spectrum.
A water-based product, typically would last about 5 years.
Right. I think the max you'd go out is about 10 years on some of
Yeah.
that, but they won't give you a warranty for that. And any other?
Is the mortar in pretty good shape other than where they've caulked it?
I would say yes. Behind that, again, behind that secondary drain, there's a metal flashing that we visually couldn't see prior to the roof, that there's bricks missing. So we would be we would be putting the strength behind that metal plate, pull that metal plate off, put the bricks there, because right now it's just completely void. There's a void there. But yeah, other than where, again, the caulk currently is, and, it's, some of it's silicone, some of it's a concrete type caulk. Other than that, the mortar joint is in relatively good shape.
And also, just a side note, moving forward, that's not appropriate for.
Oh, I knew
to
that.
do it.
So,
So like
Right.
if you had to repair anything, then we can help you out in the right ways to do that.
Right, and, on another note of past repairs, most likely when that building was built 100 years ago, it was a sand lime-based type mortar, not something that you see today. There's other sections that were repaired, many, many years ago. I think the bank bought that building in 1982 and had done significant repairs to that building, and they used more of a traditional mortar, gray mortar, in the 80s to repair some sections of that building.
And you got to be careful with that too, sometimes, depending on the age of the building. Okay.
The thickness of that wall is about 4 bricks thick. That's what we estimate it to be.
Right.
And every 5th row, the brick is turned at a perpendicular to the straight to tie the wall back.
Okay. Any, well, this time, before we vote, is there any public input?
I move that we accept the application with the note of the below 500 PSI pressure for your cleaning.
Okay.
Second?
Mrs. Shari?
Yes.
Mrs. Seals?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mrs. Seal?
Yes.
Mr. Blackwood?
Yes.
Motion carried. And we're going to get that COA pulled together, if you can pick it up from Jenny tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
All right, next we have 210 West Thomas, Downtown Fitness.
Hello, I'm Tabitha Davis. I'm the owner of Downtown Fitness and operator, and I am seeking approval for the, not the banner, the decal for our name and our 2-door logos and the hours of operation.
You know this needs to be submitted before you put the decal
I
on.
did not at the time, I'm so sorry.
Well, we did talk about this at the work session. I don't know that we really had any comments. It
Yeah.
fits within the guidelines.
Just any signage, maybe, if you're in the leadership role or whatever, to maybe familiarize yourself with anything in the windows, because even things hanging behind the windows can be considered signage.
Okay.
So just for future reference,
Yes, ma'am.
to familiarize yourself with it.
And I did read over the guidelines after Ms. Garcia sent them to me, so I have been reading over them. Yes, ma'am.
Any discussion?
Fine.
Any public input? Okay. Motion to approve is, the application is submitted.
Second. You get second.
Oh, I thought you made the motion.
I did make it. You second?
Second.
Okay.
Mr. Blackwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Seal?
Which one? Yes.
Seal,
Susan?
Yes.
Mrs. Shari?
Yes.
Mrs. Seals?
Yes.
Mr. Folk?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, have a good one.
And you can get that COA from Jenny tomorrow.
I'll give you a call, Tabitha.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next we have 223 West Thomas, Hot Works signage.
Hello, my name is Jason Dindy. I'm co-owner of the Hot Works in Hammond. I think we submitted the sign that we would like to put up and also some pictures of some decals. The sign that we were looking at was, of course, one on Thomas and one on the adjacent road. I think y'all have the new one also with the light hooked to the sign.
Oh, is that, okay, I didn't notice that before. At the bottom.
That's the old one.
That's the one.
That's the older sign.
old one?
This is the new one I have right here, but I don't know if y'all have it.
It
That's
should
what
be
you're
in
looking at, I
this packet.
think. Yeah, it says
Yeah, with
right
the,
run across the bottom. What kind of light?
is that an LED or something, a strip LED or something?
The,
It says spotlight.
do y'all have this one?
Yeah,
Okay, yes, there's going to be a strip of LEDs. I thought that would, after looking at everything else, after looking at PJ's, looking at Tommy's, they had all that conduit, then they have those spotlights, and I didn't think that looked presentable. I'm like, if we're going to do the work, I asked them, can you put a small strip of LEDs? That way it wouldn't be so cumbersome. I thought it would be a better,
so you're
sleeker
just
look.
washing the sign with
Yes.
the light.
So the only thing with the lighting that I would have a concern with, because there are apartments above there and
Yes,
windows
ma'am.
right there. So, you know, just as far as the directional of the signage and even,
That was the biggest concern of mine. I'm hoping that we're going to have, if you look at that, I'm hoping that the sign is going to be not in the middle of the two windows, of course. It's hard to see on there. But there is a pole
right,
right, we're going to
the
be
north
taking,
side of that building.
where's a old flagpole? Right there there it is. We're going to be taking that flagpole down, and this is kind of what I want to talk to y'all about. On that flagpole, the way it's set, it's just set in there and it looked like a hook. So it's not very, we can't hang the sign there because we a little scared of the structural part of it. But I was thinking of moving the top part of the sign and covering that. That way you wouldn't be able to see the hole. It would be covering it. It would be a little bit easier. And it would be lower than the windows, and it would not put as much light as the two spotlights shining like Tommy's and all that, because I thought about the tenants above them.
Well, as long as the, the mounting brackets mount into the masonry, I mean,
Yes.
into the,
Into the
brick.
mortar, excuse me?
Yeah.
Not the brick itself?
Yeah.
Then that's acceptable.
Right.
The, and the sign sizes are within the requirements, but you're asking for two signs on,
We were asking for two, and we had a couple of thoughts, and I think there was an email sent back and forth about a corner. The only reason why we didn't want the corner is they have those telephone poles all right there in the corner.
Okay.
So if we cannot do two, then I would want to just do the one on Thomas
right?
and ask for y'all to look at, which I don't know if there's any,
I mean,
possibly
you have
something
the
like
window.
this on the side window or something
Oh,
like that.
absolutely.
You have the, space, he has the space to do two signs within the both, on the side, because it's a corner. So his front outside.
Well, yeah, I mean, you get increased square footage for your sign, but you can only have the one primary sign.
Right.
So, but the window sign is like you're talking about.
The window on the side, on the,
So when you're ready for
Not that one, but that one right there, yes, sir.
Yeah.
At the bottom, that's what we were thinking, if we could possibly put a decal just right there and then just put the one sign in front, that'd be perfect. If,
Well, what I would ask is that, I mean, I don't know that we'd be prepared to vote on that today because we need to know the size and orientation of that vinyl in that window. Isn't it? Huh? No, the one he's asking to do on the side.
you have
On
yeah, you,
the Magnolia Street side.
Right.
you have
instead of the
that,
primary
and we
sign.
also sent you some other decals to look at.
Yeah, well, I see that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we can
Hmm?
amend, that's just.
How,
vinyl
well,
sign.
how big are you planning to put that?
Whatever y'all want. Because there's two big windows right there, if you see it. So it wouldn't be covering both. I was just thinking one, and I don't even think it should not be that big. I'm thinking only something like, it shouldn't be that big.
Yeah, I mean, it needs to be within 20% of the window area,
Okay.
and those letters can't exceed 12 inches.
That's no problem.
They need to be less than that.
Go back to you said an LED strip?
The LED strip?
At the
It's-
bottom?
Yes, ma'am. The one that's hooked to the bottom of the sign. There's a side view. I made him put a side view on it. Do you have this one?
Probably do,
It's
yeah.
like a little tray kind of that goes along the bottom of the sign that has light in it. It's
It
Yes,
kind
shines
ma'am.
of-
Oh,
on the
okay,
side.
so no
Yes, ma'am.
blinking, nothing, it's just
Right.
light, okay,
It's just like,
yeah.
because someone mentioned about neon, and I didn't really want to go that route. I just wanted it to be something clean and,
I think that's wise.
yes.
Yeah.
Having been in charge of a neon sign, I think that's
Yes.
wise.
And this door sign vinyl, you're only putting on one of the doors, right? I mean, that's what you have shown in your example.
Yeah, that's an example of it, yes, sir. We don't really have to put it, the doors there, of course, they're older, so we would want to make sure it's just on one. And it's probably going to be on the one that is not moving as much because,
You do have, I mean, you have the windows that turn in. I don't know if that, you can put some people have put the hours right there on where you're walking in. You have windows, the doors are skinny,
oh, yes, sir.
is what I'm
Yes,
looking
ma'am.
at. That your
Yes, ma'am.
windows are smaller. That space might give you the more room to put your numbers without, your hours without
Yes,
having
ma'am.
it seem bunched up.
I think we were just showing you what they look like, so,
Okay. Yeah, I don't have a problem with them putting on the door, as long as it's just the one and not the same thing on both.
no, it's just be one.
Okay.
And we'll have to do you want me to come back to approve the one on the side? Or
Well,
is
if
that,
everyone here is comfortable with
It needs to be
amending the
submitted
application, we do need to submit on she's right.
no problem. I can
We can
definitely
amend the
submit it
application
before all
to
that
include that,
works
just
out.
follow up.
upon
I'm sorry?
submission to the administration.
Sorry, it's hard then. We need to just submit it as a follow-up, but we can amend the application to include that
Yes, sir.
vinyl.
I appreciate it.
All right, is there any other discussion? Any,
I just want for clarification, are we doing 2 hang signs?
Just one.
no,
Okay.
just the one primary sign on Thomas Street.
On the Magnolia side would be replaced by the new vinyl that's going to be submitted to you
Right.
Right.
within their guidelines.
Right.
We'll submit all vinyl, like on all windows and everything before we print anything
Okay.
to her, as soon as we get it approved.
Any public input at this time? Thank you. So, I move that we amend the application to only have one primary sign on Thomas Street and to add vinyl window signage on Magnolia Street using the Hotworks logo to be submitted following
Yes,
the
sir.
meeting.
Second. If you finish that.
I'm finished.
Second that. It's just to amend it.
Mr. Falk?
Yes?
Mrs. Seals?
Yes,
Mrs. Shirey?
Yes.
Mr. Blackwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Seal?
Yes.
All right. And now, I'll move that we accept the application as amended.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Mr. Blackwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Seal?
That's you. Susan.
Seal, Susan Seal?
Yes.
Mr. Falk?
Yes.
Mrs. Seals?
Yes.
Mrs. Shirey?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you can get your COA from Jenny tomorrow.
I'll get in contact with you.
Okay, next up, we have 411 West Thomas Street, Super King Seafood.
Good morning. Come here to put an application, put a generator for my business.
Right, placed in the back.
Yes, sir.
And you're going to put a screen fence
Yes, sir. Yes,
around
sir.
it, matching what you already have?
Yes.
Can you say his name?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go.
Go ahead.
Say
What was
your name.
Your name?
Oh, Tuan Nguyen, Super King Seafood. It was just come to you guys, see if we can put a generator. So hopefully, for these upcoming months, just in case crazy thing has been happening.
Right.
Yes.
I don't, from the work session, we didn't have any comments really about it. We're fine. Anything here?
No, it's fine.
Yes, we're gonna build a pad, like whatever. I know the generator is like 10 feet long and 3.5 feet wide and 5 feet tall, and we're gonna build a pad 6 by 6, and we're gonna fence it up just like the original fence that we had,
Right.
paint it the way you guys wanted.
Okay. That's great. Any public input? All right,
I make a motion to approve the application as submitted.
I'll second.
Mrs. Shirey?
Yes.
Mrs. Seals?
Yes.
Mr. Falk?
Yes.
Mrs. Seal?
Yes.
Mr. Blackwood?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a blessed day.
Have a good day.
Okay, next we have 106 North Magnolia, new construction.
Glenn Alak, owner of the 106 North Magnolia property.
So you're, you're adding a garage, a detached garage at the back?
Correct.
Okay. Do, the comment that I had when we talked on Friday, because your sketch that you included,
Yes.
you were showing that gable like across the wide part of the garage instead of on the narrow end.
Correct.
Was there a reason for that? I mean, I think it would work better for you and have a lower roof height if you face it toward the side.
I can do that. Yeah, so the front side of it, hip it.
Yeah, I mean, you just have a gable, but the gable would be on the short ends.
Right, north and south.
Right.
Yeah, that's fine.
No, the gable would be which way?
North and south.
On a north exposure and a south exposure as opposed to an east and a west. I didn't see a notation about the pitch of the roof. You did say you wanted to look at similar to the house.
Similar
which
to
would
the house.
require, what is that, a 612 or something like that? It's pretty steep.
It's pretty steep.
Okay. It'll be easier for you to achieve that if you change to the north-south exposure than the other way, because it would make that a really tall
Yeah.
gable.
Okay.
And there's no materials listed or anything,
It's going to replica the house.
so like wood and not vinyl?
No, no vinyl.
Okay.
And are there any issues about the setback, the 3-foot setback?
No, according to Tracy at the city, there's a
Yeah.
0 lot line.
That's it.
0?
0.
Yeah, as long as it meets this.
And I'm
city
giving 3
requirement for
feet
that.
so I can clean
Yeah,
around.
yeah. Well, you want the firemen to get back there if they have to.
All right, so materials to match the house, which means shingles, siding, trim. Other than the gable, is there any other comments?
I'll move acceptance as amended.
We did have public input.
Oh, wait, any public input at this, for this application?
What did we amend?
We didn't.
We
The
didn't
gable.
can't amend.
That's right.
We have to make a motion to amend it before. We accept it.
Okay. So we're amending it to,
Change the direction of the gable to the short, to be on the short dimension of the garage.
do you have a second to amend?
Second to amend the application.
Mr. Blackwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Seal?
Yes.
Mr. Falk?
Yes.
Mrs. Seals?
Yeah.
Mrs. Shirey?
Yes. And a motion to accept the application as amended.
Second.
Mrs. Seal?
Yes.
Mrs. Shirey?
Yes.
Mrs. Seals?
Yeah.
Mr. Falk?
Yes.
Mr. Blackwood?
Yes.
Will you come tomorrow to my office and get the ceiling?
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have 2 West Thomas with the DDD bike racks.
Hi, Cassie Reagan. I'm one of the DDD board members, and Chelsea couldn't be here today, so I'm taking her place. I think you guys have the information where we want to put the bike racks and the images of what they're going to look like. So I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
I think whenever we were in our work session, the only thing that came up was actually, I think it's been addressed in this email, which was there was an original placement by the 211,
On Magnolia Street.
210 what, Tom? No, what is it? The Magnolia Street side.
223.
But it was on the side of that building.
In Morrison Alley, the one that's there now?
No, the Magnolia Street.
Magnolia and,
But
sorry.
on this email, it says it was right next to that building where he
And
just
Thomas.
came in for Hot Works.
Okay.
I don't know the address, that's what I was looking at.
223.
223. There was,
Okay.
That's where it was originally.
Right.
You had proposed it, but I think y'all switched it to be further down Magnolia, is that what
it
this
says
says?
on here that it was
Do you know,
switched
Katie,
to,
where they-
Knowledge, that's where it's planning on going. We went and measured it for that location.
okay, this email that came in says that it was a green space near the police parking lot.
Yeah, this was on Friday.
And
That came from Chelsea?
That came
From
from,
Tracy to Chelsea,
yeah.
after they
Then that would
reviewed-
just be further down the block.
Yeah, just back
Yeah.
down this way. in the
Right.
We
picture.
can, Chelsea's dad passed away last night, so when
Oh.
she's back in the office, we can confirm that location
Okay.
and,
Sorry to hear that.
amend whatever we need to amend, but I'm not sure if it moved a little bit.
Yeah,
I
I'm
know
not
they,
sure of that communication between them.
yeah.
Okay. Well, because I think that in the discussion that there was an issue with it next to that building from the building owner.
Okay.
So I didn't
Yeah, no, I
want to
know.
go further or say no to something that. you
No,
know,
any building owner affected was going to be contacted if they didn't approve the location, and I think everything is in a public space.
Yes.
So they must have moved that one down to deal with that. That was a big concern of ours, to make sure that no one was upset about the placement if it affected their property, so.
And colors, y'all, bronze?
Either
or-
black or the dark green, I believe.
Bronze first.
Yeah, I think Chelsea had marked bronze or dark green, but black
Okay.
would work as, I think any of those 3 colors would be acceptable based on what we have downtown.
The ones in Morrison Alley that are there now are black.
Yeah, this is a picture of that
Not
one.
that that stands out anywhere necessarily.
Was the,
wanted the green because most of the other stuff is.
yeah,
The garbage
Well, that's what I'm
can.
thinking, that it really needs to match all the other, the signage and all that sort of thing. That dark forest green is a good color.
And the garbage cans are green
Green.
too.
Light
I don't
poles.
know why I don't know why that doesn't
Some of them
stand
are
out.
black.
I
some
thought
of
that was what
The
it
one
some of the
that's pictured
cans
here
are
black.
black, and there were some that were green. There's still some green hanging out? The ones at my corner are black.
Well,
I don't have a preference either way.
either of those colors will work.
Okay.
So it's your choice amongst those two that were
Okay.
submitted.
We just need to change that one location then.
Let's see on the application.
Is the one on Kate Street, or Kate Park, is it going to be replaced? It looks like it's wood, or is it concrete? That single
There's,
post?
they're just showing the location where it's going to go.
That's a wooden post.
There'll be the loop
It's old.
Okay.
bike rack.
I don't
Yeah,
think that
okay.
post is there.
So, just so we're, make sure we wrap this up, so I'm gonna, if there's any public input now, actually, before we make any motions? I will move that we amend the application specific to location number 2 that on Magnolia Street, that be noted to be in the green space near the police parking lot. Per this email from Tracy to Chelsea.
I'll second that.
Mrs. Shirey?
Yes.
Mrs. Seals?
Yeah.
Mr. Falk?
Yes.
Mrs. Seal?
Yes.
Mr. Blackwood?
Yes.
Now, I'll move that we accept the application as amended.
I'll
Motion
second.
to, you made that motion?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you were asking for a motion.
Did you second?
I
I'll
made the
second.
motion. You
Or
second.
Whoever.
I made the motion, Roy seconded.
I
Mrs.
thought he was asking for a motion. That's why I made, I said that.
Mrs. Seal?
Yes.
Mrs. Shirey?
Yes.
Mr. Blackwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Seals?
Yes.
Mr. Falk?
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, next we have 206 East Morris Street, relocation.
Hello, Pierre Terrio, Holly and Smith Architects. So
At this point, I need to recuse myself in this application.
we are representing STOA, the STOA Group, who one of the co-owners is here with me today. If there are any questions directed to him, but we are asking approval to relocate the house located at 206 East Morris. As you know, it is part of a larger grouping of properties that are being consolidated for this new development, and this is the only property that faces the district and therefore needs to meet the requirements of the district. And also, as you know, we've been before the commission before to get approval on concept, and we got that. So this is the next step. They have made arrangements with Davy Shoring to relocate the house to one of 2 developments which are part of the application, and we're asking for your approval and answer any questions if you have any.
I would like to give just a little backstory on this. So we did the approval of there was a demolition originally submitted that we were able to thwart that actual application and have discussion with the Fuller Center about donating the house to the Fuller Center. And that was all good. And then COVID-19 happened and the Fuller Center was not able to accept the house. Funding was an issue, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just trying to get everybody here, just for transparency
I think
purposes.
COVID disrupted their operations.
Right,
They had
so
to-
now we're back to relocation, and you guys have found a place for these to be relocated within the parish, not within the city, but within the parish.
Right.
So I just wanted to get everybody up to.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Has there been a location specified where it would go?
Toby, can you answer that? Is it, it's still just one of those two developments?
Yeah, it's one of the two developments. We submitted it.
Well, there were, yeah, I saw that, but I didn't know if you made a final decision.
It's not, ultimately, it's not our decision. It's because we're.
It'd be the owners, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right, gotcha, okay. We just wanted to be comfortable with the fact that it would be located properly
Right.
and preserved properly.
In our Friday meeting, I just kind of pushed back because I know what we've done up to this point, but what I approved was a concept. And the concept of the building and the office building, all of that is fine. But our guidelines tell us that we need to do certain due diligence before we approve any relocation. And my simple question is, it says all historic buildings should be moved only if all other preservation options have been exhausted. After Friday, I looked through minutes because I'm like, maybe I'm missing something. But I don't see where we have talked about any other preservation options. I know we're supposed to look at economic development, and I think that's all good, but I don't think economic development should come at the price of depleting the inventory of this small area. And when I go back to my human resources training, to eliminate emotion, you always follow policy, you always follow guidelines. So if someone can tell me what other preservation options have been talked about or discussed, that might help me move to a different place.
Okay, well,
By preservation options, what do you mean? By keeping it there and?
Yeah, keeping it there. I mean, we lose another piece of our inventory. Even though it's not being demolished, it's being moved. And when you move something, it interrupts the integrity of that building's space in a way. What meaning did it have in the district? And if we, as a commission, keep allowing this to happen, there won't be anything to preserve. And so I just like to know what discussion.
okay. Well, first let me back up and say that really I think the essence and the reason for submitting it as a concept and having it be approved is to convey the intent of the developer and explain to you why he needs the building to be the size that it needs to be, which I think we did all of that, and to get some sort of assurance that before this developer spends the kind of money that it takes to hire an architect, to do the due diligence, to purchase the property, that he will be able to move forward to the next phase. So that was done, and it was unanimously approved. The developer has studied the site, and to meet his pro forma and his financial aspects, the preservation was not possible. So that was the due diligence that he did to see if it was possible. If he could have made the project work with keeping the house on site, I believe he would have, but it wasn't possible.
I'm still not hearing specific options for preserving. Like, did you look at something like making that a like executive housing for your corporation, or a place where you have meetings for your corporation, and using the other space that you had to accommodate? I mean, that's just an idea, but
Right.
I'm not hearing. And
I think that was out of the developer's desire to do that, so
okay,
they did
so
not look at that.
If a developer came and say wanted to buy the property across from PJ's, they bought that property, but they wanted to tear down the house where John just bought. They want to tear all of that down because they're going to put a huge building there. So we're supposed to say, okay, tear it down because it's economic development, and that's what the developer wants to do. I don't think
Well,
that's.
well, I
what
think
we're here for.
in that case, though, I would say that that building is a contributing building to the district, and the one you're referring to, and I would think you would have every right to demand that that building be saved. However, this building is not identified as a contributing building in the district, and you have a vehicle in your guidelines to allow people to relocate buildings. So I think we're meeting the guidelines.
But you still haven't given me any options that you talked about. So I'm not here to argue, I'm just here to say that
It was
guidelines.
considered contributing, these were documents submitted to SHPO when the Central Hammond survey was conducted. So I don't know
Well,
what,
and where are those documents available?
SHPO,
Is that available to the public?
it should be. That was when the Central Hammond survey was done, I believe in 2017.
Well, we haven't been able to see that document, so I'm not familiar with it, so. I just know that the data on your website doesn't show it as
I didn't see
contributing.
what you were referring to on the website either. So,
It's a map. It's a map that's on your website.
I know, but I don't see anything that says it's not contributing on the website.
You have specific buildings that are identified as contributing buildings, and then you have buildings that just say historic district properties. So this one is identified as historic district property.
Right.
So does that mean that every single building is this building eligible for tax credits?
At this moment,
Right.
no, but that doesn't mean
Ever.
it's not, it could be.
Are you sure about that? Because it has to be a contributing building to be able to get tax credits.
I understand.
That's my argument.
I understand that, but it is a contributing building to the historic district.
Okay, well,
So, does anybody else do you have anything that you want to add, Roy? I'm going to just go make this more.
I believe that there's a vehicle by which we can move forward with this. Having functioned in that neighborhood, I really, it's a cute little house, but I feel like moving it would be a good option. Because currently it's going to end up being like a gap-toothed property. If the developer builds around it, I think it's going to be less contributing. It'll detract from the historic district as opposed to continue to add to it or to contribute to it. So, and I looked at it a long time, and that's what I would be comfortable with. I want it preserved, but I saw what was going on underneath with the foundation and all that, and there's some serious issues there, physical issues in addition to the conceptual issues. So I would be comfortable moving ahead with it.
Okay.
I would also be comfortable with moving ahead with moving the building for a couple of reasons. I have been on I'm probably the oldest living historic district person in the room. Been on here since before some of you were born. And we started from nothing almost in this district. Just nice buildings that needed to be preserved. And we have worked, this Historic District Commission has worked incredibly diligently to create an environment that something like this company that would come in and bring people working, people enjoying the district, people dining out, putting a building that's kind of on the edge of the district that kind of cleans up that area a little. I feel like I would be remiss if I voted to keep that building there at all costs, particularly on the east and west side of our community. There are lovely cottages and small houses and that contribute to our historic district here. They're walking distance to our district. So to save that one building, which is cute, it's really cute and it's going to go somewhere, but to stop a whole project like these people have in mind, to me is not in maybe it's a little bit of preservation, but it's not in moving the district forward, because in the 70s, when we started on all this, there was no hope for anything like STOA in our district. And now, these people look at us and say, hey, this place is happening. That didn't just happen overnight. That's been years of people contributing to the preservation of buildings all in the district. And most of them, this is a red brick town, kind of, a bricky town. That little house is cute, but it's not so significant that we would stop the progress. I mean, I don't get it if we do. And I'd like to say, not on my watch would it happen. We've worked too hard to make this a viable, happening district. And it is because we have restaurants and nice buildings, and that little house, it's itinerant. People come and go there. They don't contribute much. Maybe they did originally, but the little town, the little houses on either side, do for the district what that one house does. So that's my thinking. Appreciate that.
Shauna, did you have anything else to add?
I'm sticking to the guideline, and I understand what everybody is saying, but I just think we should do our due diligence with this. I don't want to be in business either, but is there a way? I mean, we have to start thinking out of the box. So that's fine, I don't have anything else.
Just to go on record as far as my stance on it is that I agree with what Susan has said, but more so, and Roy as well, and Shauna, I get it. We had a project that came before us. There was a bit of a back and forth not long ago with the relocations of houses, and I just want to, like I said, go on record as to what the difference in these projects are. And the previous project on the Westmore side was more. My reason for voting against that relocation was because that was not for, in my opinion, economic development. This project is economic development. It's bringing 50+ jobs to our area. The two houses, or the two properties that are also included in this project, are not under the purview of the historic district, but are, at least the one on the corner there is dilapidated. It's dangerous, I would imagine. I've actually walked in that building whenever it was occupied, and I was afraid I was going to fall through the floor. But, so we don't have those in our purview. They will eventually be gone. And then, as Roy put, it'll be more jack-o'-lantern there, where we have the large Wells Fargo side, and then there would be something there on that corner, and then we have this little house that I do feel like, I'll reiterate what Roy said, would actually take away from the cuteness of the house, the originality of the house and where it is. And if it can be relocated into another subdivision with like houses, then I think that is a form of preservation in and of itself. So that's my take on it. I do want to ask, since we've all spoken, but for any public input.
I'd like to say something.
Come on up. Just state your name, please.
My name is Carol Aikman. I'm all for economic progress. With this gentleman saying that there were some current situations with underground below the bottom of that house, would that be in retrospect of drainage or any kind of plumbing, or, you know, and what is this facade going to look like on this new building? I'm also concerned about parking, because right now I live in an area on Holly Street, and we're so crammed with transient, not enough parking space. We have drainage problems, water is not flowing, we get floods. You know, I'd like to know, what are y'all going to do about those concerns?
So Carol, that is not really our, that would be before more of the planning and zoning,
Okay.
building department,
Okay.
those issues. I don't have an answer. I mean, we don't have that
Okay.
answer. But I don't want, so that, I understand, there is a concept, I don't know if you have it, just to show, I mean, since they're here. And it includes, if I remember correctly, it includes its own parking, and it's got, I don't remember how many parking spots it's got, but maybe you can put it somewhere where somebody can see it, like, I know they weren't here whenever, just for public.
Right.
And would the green space be similar to what the green space is in front of Wells Fargo? Or will the facade on those buildings be leaning to more historical type buildings, or would they be more modern, conservative type buildings?
No, they're, the building is very similar to the Wells Fargo.
Yeah.
Do
Okay.
you have an image?
Yes.
Well, it wasn't part of this application because it came
Well, I
before.
know, Carol.
But it's very similar. It will
We should have one somewhere in
basically
there.
the same parking layout as Wells Fargo has. And it's a U-shaped building, so it'll have green space in the middle of the U.
Would there also be parking behind those buildings once those buildings are
Yeah,
eliminated?
Just like Wells Fargo.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Okay. Is there any other public input?
I don't have a statement, I just have a question.
Okay. I just need to say your name.
Okay, my name is Sonia Crockett. I live at 311 South Holly. We've been in our house for about 8 years. Our house is one of the oldest houses, I think, in Hammond. It's over 100 years old. We put a lot of work into our house. My question is, same thing happened with the bank building and now with this building. We're kind of getting notification of things after the fact.
Right.
Is there some place or some kind of notification that we can get when these renderings and when the concept comes before you, that we're notified and can at least be here and be present to know that these things are going on? We feel like we're starting to be, like I said, this neighborhood that we live in is one of the oldest in Hammond. And we're starting to feel like we're being encapsulated with the commercial properties that are going up. And we still have other issues that are taking place in our neighborhood that we're worried about how that's going to contribute to those issues.
Okay. Again, I would say we do a public notice on both online and in the newspapers of our meetings.
Okay.
I don't know that we can't really reach out to all of the residents in the whole area, and I know that I understand your concern in the historic relevance of your neighborhood. It's not in the historic district itself. So, we don't have that in place. I don't know the ability to do that. But I would say that just paying attention to our agendas that are posted. Again, so follow us on social media, on Facebook. She puts it on the Facebook page, so it may just pop up and you can look at it without having to dig in the newspaper for it. But in the website, of course, but again, you have to go look for that. So, social media is a good way to keep more updated without having to look for it.
I was under as far as the zoning and.
Well, that's the other thing I was going to
I thought
go.
that we were brought into it when they did that restructuring a couple of years ago.
No.
That Holly was brought into the historic district.
No.
No, it was not? Okay.
No.
It's under consideration.
But
If you'd
really,
like to see them
I wanna-
after the meeting, I've got one here.
Okay.
I want to follow up again, and it kind of said, like what I was talking with Carol about, is that there are other levels to this. We're just one, and they have to have our approval for a concept before they can move on to another level, like planning and zoning and such. So there are other opportunities that you can voice your opinion in a place that they have those answers as far as drainage and as far as those subjects go. So,
May I ask and maybe clarify?
yes, if you could just state your name.
Karen Walston, I live on 404 South Cherry Street. I think some of their concern was that building that we're
Right,
talking about.
right. Can you go to the
Well,
podium?
we need to have.
Can you
Yeah.
go to the podium so we can?
Oh,
I'm
okay,
sorry, I thought you just
No,
said-
I was just, it's a point of clarification. Isn't it my understanding that if there was issues such as Sonia brought up, that
Are you-
they go to the Planning and Zoning Commission, okay?
That's correct, that's what I was
And I
saying.
think that that was what Sonia was asking about. She wants to be notified so she could go and see what that structure looks like, and that's what Carol was saying too, what that structure looks like and all the issues. So I think we're asking to be notified in our neighborhood.
I'm not,
Because this project has gone before planning and zoning?
No,
Oh, it hasn't?
not yet. It comes here first,
yeah.
and then it goes.
Okay, good. So then we will be notified?
We can reach out, yeah.
I think that's what.
I think that's but just to make,
Something with the lots or something already for planning and zoning?
Yeah, because this,
okay, wait. I just want to clarify that is there something in place where you reach out to individual owners or just by request, or can they fill out a request form? I don't know, so that nobody
we have-
feels like
We have a
that
neighborhood
somebody.
association and we have our council person here.
Okay.
So we're,
I just don't want it to come back, nobody notified me whenever it's been on a
A
thing.
citizen,
No, I understand.
a citizen is always able to request any documents
Okay.
that are public records, and all this that's submitted to the city would be considered public records. So if there are architectural plans, renderings, anything that has come from Holly and Smith to the building department could be a public record supplied. As for notification, we're actually not required to notify neighborhood associations unless there is a variance that's being requested or something along those lines
Okay.
that's going to transform within the neighborhood itself. The notification requirements are of adjacent property owners and those immediately directly impacted. Sometimes if it's a large development, that could be a larger space than those who are directly addresses next door, but most of the time that's those who are directly impacted are notified by letter that this is coming before the Planning and Zoning Commission. But as a, you know, we can certainly reach out. Y'all are here, you're asking for information, we can certainly reach out.
yeah, I
provide
think for this particular project, just because of its location
that.
and I think it would, you know, so we would be notified about when it's coming up on the planning and zoning. Would that be
Absolutely.
possible?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jessica, the other thing that's really important to remember is, you know, this is a small town. Pick up the phone and call the offices and just say what's pending, what's out there that's, you know, maybe I want to be involved in or know about it. So just call.
Yes,
Hi,
if you can come up to the podium and
Barbara
just.
Roberts. I live at 305 South Cherry Street. And everything that I feel has been said already. I realize that COVID caught us all off guard. I feel like maybe we're too late now voicing. But my little property, the reason I moved to Hammond is because of this historic integrity. And I do feel like some of these projects are coming up quickly on us. And yes, I will stay more in tuned here on out. But since the big bank building, it's
That's
been
not in our
atrocious.
purview.
And I know, I'm just saying. I know, but I am in the historic district myself at 305. And as a result of this development, I'm going to see more traffic, I'm going to see more concrete, I'm going to see more drainage problems. I'm very close to it. And so I really, it's not just about one little house to me. It's about the neighborhood. It is a historic neighborhood, and I'd like to see it stay that way. Thank you, though.
Thank you.
Let me just make one more statement since we keep hearing drainage. Drainage is not under the purview of this board, to be clear. But as a side note, the city requires drainage plans for every development that comes in. You can't shed water onto other locations. It must be stayed within your development. On top of that, there are multiple drainage projects, thanks to the work of the mayor and the councilwoman for this district, that are going to improve the drainage through capital outlay projects for the Iowa district neighborhood. And those are going into effect now. So if there have been drainage issues, we're trying to address those through capital projects. This building must submit drainage plan. That all has to come under the development.
There will be drainage done on Cypress, all the way down to Hanson, around to the building that was done by Andre Carrier, and to the
Wells Fargo, that's the Wells Fargo.
The Wells Fargo building,
Wells
yes.
Fargo. So there's drainage that Charlie and I have been working on. Chuck Spangler's going to get started on that here shortly. So our focus in your neighborhood is number one, to keep encouraging people to fix up homes. Thank you for your investment and what you're doing. This is 190 State Highway. Yes, it's a corridor. I do understand Cherry, which has been a business corridor as well over many, many years. But everything from that end to the Range Road end, we want that neighborhood, and we see the potential of that neighborhood to rebuild back to a great neighborhood. At one time, I was truly hoping we would get the old high school back. If that didn't happen, we could have possibly turned it into a school, which would have really enhanced people wanting to move there. But anyway, it didn't happen. They ended up purchasing it. Point being, we're definitely not trying to encourage businesses to go into the neighborhood. But what we are doing is making sure we're putting sidewalks in, drainage, that old neighborhood, and sewer, one of the oldest sewer systems around. We've done a lot of sewer work in the area and around the city as well. Biggest problem with sewer, and I've had talks with Scalise and Cassidy, is they're allowing these people with the boring to come in and don't need permit. If they hit a water line, we know immediately water's flying. We don't know if they hit one of our sewer lines until heavy rains come and we start backing up. So we have a problem with that right now. We'll have to get in, revisit like we've already done in the neighborhood with cameras to see if something's going to a pipe. Sidewalks, we want sidewalks. We started on Chestnut as well. But with sidewalks, we need to do the drainage first. So that's one of the things we really have as one of the goals is to get more sidewalks so we go to some of the major corridors like Chestnut. And hopefully we can bring it down Hanson across to Coleman and all the way out to Oak Ridge. It's one of the plans we have to work with the Regional Planning Commission. So we definitely do not want to come in and bring more businesses in. One thing about First Guarantee, I know that it's been a cluster. I know, thank goodness you've been out of town a lot. But when it's finished, along with this project, and thank you for wanting to be here in our town with the young company that you have and bring the employees here and just enjoy our community because, as Ms. Seal said, we're encouraged by that. This place, when she started, you know, Edwin Neal, Richard Murphy, they started investing in our downtown. So many places clear the downtown out, like they said at our mid-city conference, and move out to the malls, and nothing happens downtown. Cassie Reagan, who has a shop and struggles because of parking downtown. It's like New Orleans. You know, I hear some people say, I have to walk, go to New Orleans, you walk 10 blocks. You may have to walk 2 blocks. I understand. Rain, it does hamper Cassie's shop. But overall, people love coming to our downtown. People have invested their dollars. And our town, downtown is vibrant. We are a model for mid-cities across the country. We have the biggest conference that they've had ever, they told us, in our beautiful little town. So thanks to the efforts of people like Stephen and all the people that are on board. We definitely understand that, we want to preserve it. And I didn't think about it, but I have a lot you can move your house to if you like. It's right along with some row houses. But the bottom line is, we want to preserve it. If we have to move it, let's move it where we were talking about, where there are other row houses, and make our towns beautiful and pleasing to the eye, and to people who come here like me, who came here 38 years ago, fell in love the day I came here. That was a big mistake. Came here. I've been here ever since. I knew this was my home for the rest of my life. We have a wonderful town, and we don't want to upset you, and we know that it's been a struggle, but I can promise you, weekends over here, once this building's done, it's clean, and the landscape is done, the drainage is going to be in place, and we're always correcting our drainage. We want to make, I'm in construction. I love construction, making things better for us. But weekends, that's a dead spot. It's like I tell most people, you come to Hammond Monday through Friday, and we're hustling and bustle. I get 100 emails a day. Friday through Sunday, the market, it's our quaint little town. All those parking lots are empty. Very few people work there on weekends. Sure the same here, but thank you for your patience, and we definitely hear you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Melanie Ricketts, and I have some questions about the project. Relocation is not preservation. I was, for everybody who doesn't know, I am the former administrative officer of the Hammond Historic District Commission, and typically you're supposed to move and change your identity, which I wish I had, but I like it here too much and I still care a lot. You have a very hard job, Ms. Garcia. If anybody knows, I know. And I know that all of you have a hard job and that you all work very hard to be fair and to do the right thing. But in this case, I'm asking you to follow your own guidelines. When we redid the guidelines, I was there when these guidelines were born, and some of you all were a part of that. Ms. Seals, you were a part of that. Relocation is included because it was the last resort. We didn't want to have something come up with eminent domain. If you had a hospital or a police station or something that was incredibly important to the community that couldn't go anywhere else, or if you have a community where there is not a single lot or an empty space to build. And that's not the case here in Hammond. We have a lot of property outside of the area that is protected. And that building is not just cute, it's one of the last examples of that kind of architecture. You were talking about the buildings on Morris that were built, that were moved. Did anybody go and see where they relocated those buildings? Did any of the commissioners go and see where they relocated those buildings?
No.
Those buildings are not at that location. I don't know where those buildings are. And if you go and visit that location, I really appreciate Davy Shoring taking things that people are basically throwing away and rescuing them. I have a huge amount of respect for that, and I think it can be done properly. Unfortunately, that site is a clear-cut site. There are not just historic buildings there. It's like when your dog gets sick and your parents said, we're going to take the dog out to the farm. So you think the dog is going somewhere wonderful when actually somebody took the dog behind the shed and shot it. That's what this is promising. This is not an improvement. This is taking part of the historic landscape and removing it is not a preservation tenant. This was a last resort for eminent domain and things like that. The other buildings on Morris that were moved, the Historic District Commission did not approve. They were overturned by the City Council, which is a shame, but it allows the Historic District Commission to still carry through with preservation. And to somehow imply that that building detracts from the surrounding buildings that were added is against the preservation principles. It was there first, and it's there and it's protected. And is the owner of the property here, the person who owns the home? Is that person here?
He's, well, Andre Theriault owns it, who owns the Wells Fargo building. And I think that there's a transfer, there's going to be, once this moves forward, I think there's a pending.
We're buying it today.
Okay, there you go. So
Okay, so
3 o'clock, he'll be the owner.
Okay, because if that was a decision made based on some other application that was approved, that's not your responsibility either. Today would be the day that you make that decision, and if someone made decisions about that before, but if you're doing it afterwards, that's different. But your job is economic development. The reason people want to come downtown is because of the culture and the history that we've retained, which Susan has done such a good job helping with that. So you can encourage economic development and preservation. They don't have to be at odds. And I'm so glad that the mayor brought up Edwin Neal. That is a perfect example of the way that works. Those buildings that Mr. Neal renovated maintain their historic integrity, and he purchased those because that's what he wanted to help develop. Bringing people in is a great thing if they want to use what's already here, unless it is completely unsound. That building is not unsound. There is nothing, the building isn't like they called the other building shacks, but those other buildings were some of the last examples of this kind of architecture, but now they're gone. And whatever's on the other side of town, that's not the responsibility of the historic district. It's about what's within the historic district. And The other thing that concerns me is, well, we're going to put it here or we're going to put it there. You wouldn't let an applicant say, well, we're either going to paint it pink or we're going to paint it blue. You have to specifically know what the plan is. Where is the building going? What does that site look like? Because once something's removed, it is basically demolished. Because after that point, you have no control what happens to it. Like the buildings on the other end of Morris, I don't know where those buildings are today. They're supposed to be on Warren Drive. They're not there. So I understand not wanting to tell people no, and I understand wanting to feel like people are, you're helping with economic development, that you're not a hindrance to that. But the reason people want to be here is because of those things. And if you allow parts of that to be taken apart, it's going to be very hard in the future when it's a building that actually all the buildings are equally important. The building across from PJ's is just as important as the building at 206 East Morris. When you start making those judgments, you are depleting your ability to be fair across the board, and that's ultimately your job. But I'm here because I wanted to talk about relocation, because it seems that a precedent's being set. It wasn't set with the houses at the other end of Morris, because that did not pass through the Historic District Commission. This will affect other properties moving forward after you're not here anymore, which is another thing I don't think we think about the future. You know, if we're talking about an office building for properties, a lot of things are changing in our culture. Who knows what it looks like when kids come back to college? When are kids going to be able to come back to college? There are a lot of things that are questionable today that are an example of the things that can come up that we can't foresee. So like Ms. Seals said, sticking to the, you need a timeout?
3 minutes.
Oh, I don't see a timer. I wasn't aware. I didn't see anyone else have a timer. Anyway, this today is not the same as those cases. This will set a precedent that will be very hard when it's something that is different, that maybe other people feel is better, and it's a very dangerous and slippery slope. So I just had those comments, and I thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Do we have anything else from the public? I think too, for clarification, that a relocation, if it is approved, it can't happen until you complete the process of approvals through every other department too. So you can't say if this is going to, like, if this were to be approved, it would be approved pending your final approval of your project. We did that. Like if they can't just go and remove it today, and then the project never happens.
What is required is that they have to present what's going to go in its place, and they've done that.
Right, but if it doesn't go there, if it doesn't go through approval, they can't relocate it before that's all
For the last one, it was before the building permits were issued.
Right.
So you couldn't move it until all permits.
That's exactly.
And planning and zoning has approved all issues of the construction.
Right. So I just want to clarify that.
Is that the typical process?
The typical process?
Yeah, like, I mean,
That's what
we're
we're
going to follow whatever the ordinance
We
states.
have never, at this point, voted to relocate a property. So
So there's
this,
no process to move it.
so if this is presented for, I'm just going to say, if the motion is presented that the relocation is pending final approval through planning and zoning and attainment of your building permits, then you can't just move the property
Yeah. So the only reason,
before.
the only reason I bring that up is because we did have an agreed upon timetable pending an approval for the person that's relocating the house to get it relocated in a certain period of time. If we tie it to the building permit or something like that, it could extend it. Now, if that is your process, we'll honor that. But if we don't have to do that, based upon the concept approvals that we've submitted, the plans that, the project that we're going to build, if anything, from the very first time I came and sat down with you guys before we submitted anything, months and months and months ago, maybe end of last year before we even went down this journey, if anything, the building's gotten better than anything else. So I guess all I'm saying is that we don't have to add an artificial timeline to it, tying it to building permits. I would prefer not to do that, so I can honor an agreement with the building relocator.
Okay, well then I would, that would change my outlook on it.
That would change your what?
My outlook on the
We have
relocation.
an issue that's developing here right in front of us. It has to be tied to that. Of all the portions of this project, everybody's going to say our job's the toughest. We have to grapple with large concerns. Ms. Ricketts very aptly identified a lot of those, and we have grappled with those personally and as a group up here. And it wouldn't take too much for some of us to be tipped back to a prior position.
Yeah.
So the point is, this is not an artificial timeline. This is a very real timeline,
Yeah.
and it has to be tied to the process. And I think perhaps that's the very safeguard that was designed into this process in the beginning.
Yeah.
So that we don't do something rash and we don't do something for the wrong reason, okay? I think it's a wonderful project, but I really struggle with many of the points that Ms. Ricketts made.
Yeah.
And that Ms. Seals has made, because this is, well, it's a unique building at this point in that part of town, in that designated part of town. And so we want to be very careful that because our mistakes don't show up right now.
Yeah.
If we make a mistake, it's going to show up down the road.
Yeah.
And we're going to end up with something that the mayor's going to have a hard time selling to people coming in.
Yeah.
Okay, so we want to be very careful about
No,
this.
we appreciate that. If we want to tie it to the building permit, so be it.
Because if something were to happen where the project were to fall through and the house were relocated, everyone loses.
I think that's a natural thing.
Yeah.
You just need to let these
Can I-
folks do what they're doing.
can I just chime in on that?
It's not gonna move forward without permitting anyway, so just.
That statement that I made about it being Carly Gonzalez.
Right, that was your.
That was the city council's
Right.
requirement. And I believe, don't hold me to it, but I believe it was because you guys had not approved a concept at the time. And so here it's different. I'm not telling you what to do, but it is different. It's a different process if you approve the relocation, because you have already approved a concept and have said that it's is appropriate for in the historic district. Previously, it was not approved.
Right, we've never
When it came to us, and I made the motion to put the stipulation that it had to be approved in all of the ways it could be approved.
Right, so
if
we've
it
never
got
made
removed.
that, we've
You-
never
yes.
approved relocation.
Right.
For the record, when I approved the concept, I approved the idea of the building. I like the idea, not having not with it losing part of our inventory. So I approved a concept, and I questioned whether or not we should have even been approving a concept. But that's another story. But just for the record, that's what I approved. I didn't approve or go ahead. I mean, so.
Any process y'all would like us to follow in order to be able to move forward with this project, we will follow that. So building permits, wait 6 months, wait 2 months, wait 9, I don't. So we're totally on board with that. I feel like we've been extremely transparent throughout this process. We have not tried to force anything. And we've taken our time with it. And we try to honor the process, and we're going to continue to do that.
My position as it was in the beginning is just to look at other ways to do what you want to do that would not include moving that building.
Yeah.
And I hear what everybody else
Yeah.
is saying.
So we're good with whatever.
Okay, do we have any other? So I am going to make a motion to approve the relocation pending the final approval and attainment of building permits through the proper channels through the city.
A second.
Mr. Blackwood?
Is there further discussion?
No, this is a vote.
Yes.
Mrs. Seal? No, Seal.
Okay. Yes?
Mrs. Seals?
No.
Mrs. Shari?
Yes. Peter, whenever you go back out there, you can tell Ryan he's allowed back in. Ryan.
Oh, Ryan.
I was,
Yeah, me. We'll move on to update from the director.
All right. Let me take this off real quickly. Just so y'all can hear me, because I feel like y'all can't hear me. So let's see if I can log into this real quickly.
If you're doing something, I just have a couple of comments about Robert's rules. When a motion is introduced, before discussion happens, it has to be seconded. Discussion happens after a seconded motion is on the floor. Okay? Then at a certain point when discussion wanes, then the chair can call for the vote, or a member of the body can call for the vote, at which time there's 1 more minute allowed for further discussion. And then the vote is called.
always just had public input, and
Yeah,
then
the
it, once
chair,
the motion
the
is
chair,
made.
chair under Robert's rules does not make a motion. Okay? The body makes the motion, you drive the meeting. Now, if we're not doing it that way, that's fine. I'm just saying that according to Robert's rules, that's where it goes. So,
I don't know what this computer is doing. Okay, I'm gonna try something else. There we go. Trying to get compliance up here. I don't think, we've been having problems with Google Drive.
Yeah, I tried to pull something up at the office off of the
Yeah,
linked agenda and it wouldn't come up.
yeah, I think.
It comes up on my iPad, but
Yeah, I think something happened, maybe there was an update or something, but I've been struggling with this. Okay, here we go. Just two little violations. 216 West Thomas, there's damaged awnings, and at 220 West Thomas, so Tommy's, and then the building that is for sale. I didn't know if maybe we wanted to reach out to the realtor to let them know that that's
Ladder and Bloom. What does it say?
Ladder and Bloom.
I mean, is there a person under there?
No, I
No,
didn't.
there's no name. Because I did email them a while ago.
Well, okay, so if someone were to purchase that building, they purchase a violation.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
so we probably should reach out to the realtor so that it's part of the, there's not really a way to do due diligence on that, I would imagine. I mean,
other than to
that's a
follow
lot
it to
of-
make sure that it happens.
Jenny, I'm sorry, what's the address on that?
220 West Thomas. It's the Nicolosi building. It's the other half of the Thomas.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's two different owners.
I thought, maybe I'm remembering a different one. I thought the owner from Tommy's came before us or said something
That was
about
just
replacing an
Tom.
awning. Was that?
that's two separate awnings, two separate
Yeah.
addresses, see the break?
Yeah, that.
Oh, so it was,
It's one building, but there's two different owners.
And the awnings break, so it's not
Yeah.
like it's a continuous.
yeah, I know that. I seem to remember that he was before us asking about was saying he was gonna repair some, maybe it was the door I
I
was
knew he was
remembering.
talking about the door and the,
Yeah.
I don't remember if the awnings were discussed.
James Webb is his name.
Yeah.
But I can give them a call this afternoon and just let them know about the awning situation. This is not a violation, but I just want, we are, with COVID and having to be outdoors, we're just gonna start seeing some more outdoor seating. I'm assuming, this is outside the brown door. So, just.
This is one of the things that we talked about, and I brought up again in our work session about the DDD, Planning and Zoning, and Historic District to get together quarterly or biannually to discuss things like this that arise, because I really feel like that with everybody partnering together and saying concerns, or that's not a concern, or, you know, just to, it's stuff that we can't have a guideline for everything, because there's new stuff all the time.
Right, exactly.
So, I think that's where.
I can send an email out and we can discuss this, because
Okay.
this is something I feel that it's because of,
Well, you don't want
COVID
that
and-
to expand and grow, and they have to worry about ADA clearance and stuff like that.
Right.
I mean, that's all
Did they
federal
go through an
law.
approval process for that?
But, well, and then,
Do
this isn't our thing, but again, it may come up. I mean, there's places like in New Orleans, they actually have to pay to have outdoor, it's increasing their.
Right.
We do regulate
Their square
street
footage.
furniture, Ryan.
Where is that?
That.
Why can't I find, I'm
It's-
looking for
It's
it.
really hard to find.
Look by look in the thing, under the bike racks.
Yeah, it's under the
that.
bike racks.
Oh,
And the one we had today.
I knew I came across it, I just,
Page 73. Street accessories should match the existing accessories. Street furniture, provisions should be made for placement of occasional seating constructed in such a manner as to blend into the character of the historic district. Public street furniture such as benches, trash receptacles, fountains, or the like shall be designed to enhance and blend in with the surroundings. These elements should not stand out and attract undue amounts of attention to themselves or their function.
so this is under,
where,
yeah.
But where does this, that's my thing with having the three entities together. I mean, that's off of,
There's a lot of overlap
whose
there.
liability is that? Is that the city's liability? If somebody gets hurt on that, that's city property. I don't know where, I feel like that there's a lot of questions and that need clarification. And, I mean, you have an awning that goes out. Well, they're expanded past the awning. Is that considered too much? I don't know. I have a lot of questions. And it's not necessarily, if the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, you can't ever function smoothly. That's why I feel like that the three entities should get together and have at least one representative from each as a committee, you know, to have discussion. Somebody can even come back to us, you know,
Yeah.
our group and say, hey, these are the things we discussed in a work session, you know.
Right, because this is really the only thing that we speak to something like this in the guidelines, and really, this was not so much meant for sidewalk cafes as it was for bus benches or benches
Right,
and things,
right.
that small, not table
Well,
for eating
but
facilities.
it
So
also
we have to,
raises the question, how long's it been since we've revised the guidelines?
right, and
updated the guidelines with
this
new
whole kind of
stuff?
thing came up in
Right.
the last few years. Remember, we've been trying to resolve or get a meeting of the minds of get some common,
Just agreements between people.
agreements
yeah.
between the major, at least between planning and us, to know to have some common guidelines so that we're not conflicting with each other. That's
Right.
one
But it's in our guidelines, street furniture, right?
But that's
So
what,
shouldn't we look at that and compare it against the guidelines?
well, that's what we were talking about. This is, I think when we were talking about whenever the guidelines were originally written, it was more like benches or, that did not necessarily real whole tables and umbrellas and everything else. So that's what we're talking about. If we need to come up with we need to have a work session where we work on some of these issues that have come up that we don't have fitting guidelines for.
Right.
But if we look at that, and we look at what the guidelines say, what do we need to do with that?
That's clearly in violation of what this says.
Right, so isn't that what we're supposed to respond to? The violation? I mean, we need to revise our guidelines because a lot of things are going to change.
Read it?
It says, provisions should be made for the placement of occasional seating constructed in such a manner as to blend into the character of the historic district. Public street furniture such as benches, trash receptacles, fountains, or the like shall be designed to enhance and blend in with the surroundings. These elements should not stand out and attract undue amounts of attention to themselves or their functions.
So an example that meets that would be red, white, and blue. That's occasional furniture that's there that blends in. It's not permanent installation like this that impedes the flow of traffic and by some, and it may be a value judgment, detracts from the elements of the historic district. So that's a violation.
So then we have Courtyard Cafe, they have a wall that they, a fence that they built
Right.
around.
Right, violation.
And
No, their tables aren't these types, you know, they're more similar to what is that, Topla or.
Are they movable or are they?
They're more movable, they're smaller,
Yeah.
lighter,
like,
with chairs.
like Topla takes in their stuff every night.
Yeah, like what if they put their stuff out at night for their patrons and then during the day?
You there, not moving that in and out.
Yeah,
every
I
night.
know, but I'm just,
Yeah.
Where is that one?
That's in
Brown
front of the
door.
brown door.
Oh,
Yeah, one day we drove by there and it's just like
Yeah.
mushrooms just popped up.
this was June 11th when I took this photo. I was walking by and it was,
Right.
I don't know. I can see what you're saying, Roy, with the impeding of traffic, because if you park in that space, you may not even be able to get out your car
That's
to
right,
open
I
your
don't know.
door. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sure you can.
Yeah,
They're
you
wide,
can get out of your
there-
car.
There's trees before, in front of that spot. There's a trash can on the other side of that, so I'm sure that we can.
I'll email planning and zoning and the DDD, and we can set a meeting to discuss.
I just think it would be helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that there are things that are contradictory, but at least so that we can say, well, like Tracy said before, well, there are things that are in direct contradiction on ours, but we have, but at least we can sort through it, because I feel like that there are a lot of things that need to be done prior to meetings like this. You
Right.
know, like in a,
I do think that our discussion we're having right now would be a lot different if they had put tables and individual chairs around those
Right.
tables instead of these types of
park
benches
benches,
like that. Because that's the kind of thing they have around Southeastern bolted to the ground
right.
so that they don't walk off.
Right. Because they will.
Right.
All right, send the email.
But I agree with you, we need to address it somehow, but
It's gotta be getting close
There's
to
a lot of
work
s-
session time again, I mean,
it's gonna have to be, well, and
whatever, retreat day again.
I think that the way the guidelines are in this respect, I mean, it leaves a lot open for us to interpret and to make of opinions to come into the mix.
But if we have, I mean, if he is in violation of what we have currently, are we not obligated to do anything with that right now before reworking anything?
I don't know if it's that black and white that is in violation, I mean, it's almost, does it blend? I don't necessarily think it
It's
blends,
permanent.
but
It's permanently fixed.
is it bolted to the ground?
I'm not sure, we can.
Well, we need to,
Well-
I think that's what we need to look at, like what is there now and how does that impact the guidelines that we're supposed to?
What have you done in the past when something that may be in a violation comes up? Do you make it known to the city council or to the city administrator, or are we
Well-
policemen? I don't know.
Building inspector is our enforcement.
Right.
Okay.
We let the building inspector know to
Okay.
deal with it.
we do have the authority, but we don't want to do it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I get that.
That's a snowball effect right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they all know where we live.
Well-
It's always better to ask them to
Right.
comply before you,
And we're not supposed to discuss anything that's coming before us with the person except in this venue.
That makes sense.
We
Oh,
can't go-
yeah, because people will come up and say, oh, you're on the historic district, can I do this?
Yeah, try to lobby.
And it's, well, they're mostly trying, and then they'll, or you said I could do this. I always say, look, hey, the guidelines are online.
Yeah.
Check them out compared to your project, and it's, you know, it's all out there. So,
Good.
All right,
If it's
so,
something that we want to take up, though, I'd suggest that we put it on our next work session agenda to take up that mantle.
well.
Noting him that he's
first
in
of
a
all,
possible
that-
violation,
You're gonna have to look at the, I mean, you got Courtyard Cafe that's got a fence.
Exactly.
I can't, I'm not in good
Didn't he
conscience.
come before
can
us for that
go
thing, too?
before- Yes, but he never went, he came to talk about it one time.
that's right.
But he
didn't
never had an
apply for it, he
application or
just
anything.
asked
But we
about it.
cannot sit there in good conscience, give somebody, or talk to somebody about a violation whenever there's other violations. I mean, who's your favorite kid here? You know,
Yeah.
that's, you gotta, I mean, that's a big project. If you- I know that you walk the district looking for violations, but I think we gotta make sure there's none like it that are not getting talked to either. So I just
Yeah,
think that.
consistency is
To
critical.
finish the
well, I didn't bring
process
this
that
up
we.
as a violation, I brought it up as, this is what we might be seeing going forward with the current coronavirus, you know. businesses.
Outdoor
Well,
seating.
Right, more outdoor
Okay.
seating, that's
I
the,
think that's, I
And
think
that's
that
why I
puts
think that
impetus
it should
on us
come-
to, I'm sorry, I'm talking over.
Well, that's why I think we should have the trifecta
Right.
of.
Well, and really explore, finish the process we started last year, is to develop this clause or this portion of it into something specific for sidewalk cafes. So that it's clear what the expectations are.
and
What do you think?
I can notify, the building inspector to go check it and make sure it meets whatever city.
And, you know, I think we need to really look at things in, whenever we are, if we do a retreat to kind of do some revisions on different guidelines and whatnot. But there are things changing. Is this going to truly affect the building? Is it, I mean, are we wanting, how nitpicky do we want to be whenever, I mean, yeah, the brown door's been there for a while, but maybe it's not going to be the brown door in 10 years. I mean, so then we move the, I mean, is it something that's affecting the space?
Well, and it's also, well,
Truly,
there's that scale, then there's you zoom out a little bit, and it's the overall
sure.
district, right, and what the, for lack of a better word, what the ambiance or the look of that is. And I know there's better ways to say that right now, but they're escaping me at the moment.
Right.
Thank you. See, I knew it was in there somewhere.
The aesthetics always have to move in hand with the function.
Right.
Well, and as it says already in our guidelines, to blend, and I'm all in favor of that. Obviously, I don't want anything standing out, no, you know.
Right. Well, we're still on camera,
Yeah.
so we need to move on.
So, moving on, just some, you know, updates on current projects happening. 200 North Kate, when we approved the exterior repairs, the stucco and the windows, in-kind repairs. I don't know if y'all have seen it. It might take a while to go, come up, but they're moving along. I just kind of walk by every now and then to
I see it
monitor.
every day.
And, yeah, just kind of keep an eye on it and see how they're progressing. The brown doors, well, we approved in November of last year to repaint the trim, and they did that. I'm not sure if they're ever going to replace their doors. Remember, I don't know if y'all remember that application.
Not the, I think, I'm not gonna speak out of turn because I don't.
We
remember.
approved the painting of the trim to be black, and it was supposed to keep the doors brown. But
That's right, they were replacing the doors, it was the frames that they were gonna keep in place. That's
Right, so I guess they just went ahead and painted the whole thing black, but that was just kind of keeping y'all.
Said the brown door doesn't have a brown door.
Yeah, it's the black door. Mike Bradner, his sticker sign that we approved.
Yeah?
He dropped off a sample, but we have not really been able to meet, so.
So what's going to happen with this?
He's applying that to the brick.
To the brick?
It's like a decal.
Yeah.
So where Is it 204 West Thomas?
It's on the east side of the building of Tommy's wall. John Schmidt's office is where it's going, but the wall that's talking about is like the wall that's abuts Tommy's.
It's a new brick wall. It's not.
It's where Sam DeLeo used to have his office.
Yeah.
Is that right?
It's John Schmidt's office, yeah.
I don't know.
Is that where, that's where Larry is?
I don't need to.
You know, Susan, you want to see?
Is it where Sam DeLeo had his
I got
office?
it. Yeah,
That's gonna be
Sam
interesting.
rented space from John.
Right,
Yeah,
all
It's
right.
still John
It's
Schmidt's.
that wall that fell down, that they
No.
rebuilt.
It's not that wall, it's the Tommy's wall.
Okay.
There's a
okay.
veneer wall they put in front of the Tommy's wall.
I hear you, yeah.
So I just want y'all to
Okay.
see it. I found this in the office. I guess apparently at some point we used to make people put their certificate of appropriateness in the windows. The permit department does something similar, but it's a normal sheet of paper and they laminate it and people stick it. So I don't know if maybe we might want to start doing something again similar, just so we can know who's been approved, who's been through the process.
Does that add to your work too much?
Everything adds to my work.
Are they required to post a COA?
I did.
Most
I had
people
my
don't.
COA and my work, or my, permit,
I thought
whenever.
they were required to post the COA with the, like, next to the permit or wherever, so it's visible.
We can maybe start asking them or making it a requirement, or look
Maybe
into the requirement.
But in order to get a permit, they have to have a COA.
Well, that's true.
Well, that's the thing.
That's the technical step.
Right. Unless you have roofs that
So
move forward without.
But what'll happen is they get an interior COA, which, I mean,
That's
permit,
true.
and
It
then
can
you
be
see
a-
that yellow in the window.
Okay.
Okay.
What else did we?
Do we want to start posting legal ads in the Advocate newspaper as well as the Daily Star?
Yes.
Because of the way the Daily Star is not really running every day, it's sometimes hard for them to.
Well, which Advocate is circulated? Is it the Baton Rouge or the New Orleans Advocate?
Baton Rouge one here.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know, when they started, it was the New
And
Orleans
it's
Advocate.
daily.
Right.
Right.
Because we
that
all
one's
fussed us, so they
daily?
gave us,
That's
It's
right.
daily.
because we don't care that much about it.
Okay.
Well, we want to know what was happening with the government affairs.
Well, Jenny, can you find out what the cost is for the legal ads? Just so we know.
All right. Only one other thing.
Sean had a
Budget.
question or comment. Did you raise your hand?
No, I'm just.
You just
trying to
flailing?
get my mask.
All right.
You tied up?
Yeah.
Roy and Jessica have completed their ethics training. Thank you. Ryan did as well. I don't know if I mentioned that last time, but we are all up to date on our ethics training. And that is all that I have.
What about budget?
What about budgets? That's my question.
I don't have access to Munis.
Right.
I cannot see the budget. So I emailed SATA and we have about $1,400 right now in the budget. And
So
this-
that's supposed to last till the end of the month.
Right.
When the-
Why don't
And-
you have access?
I don't know.
There hasn't been any proposed change, right, through the city council budget?
I don't know.
Well, I think we,
Well, you didn't go whenever they discussed that line item?
I wasn't told about a budget.
Are we the keepers of our budget?
Yeah.
Well-
Let me ask it a different way.
It's a problem.
I'm not particularly clear on the difference between a board and a commission, but what I want to know, personally and as a group, do we have fiduciary responsibility over that budget? And I think that's your question. Because
So-
if we do, then we cannot do that job without having the budget in front of us.
right,
Right.
and I think they're working to give us line item access to that specific line item so we know what the running value is. But if you want a breakdown of the expenditures and whatnot, then that's still a report that you have to request.
So, there's a
That's what
city
I
council meeting on Tuesday that is going to approve the budget. And if they have reduced, we don't know that if they've reduced our budget or not. And if we had the opportunity to,
And they can if we don't know what's going on.
yeah, it's easy because it can be in there anywhere.
Have you had any discussions with Lacey, I guess.
You need to reach out to her and
Yeah.
find, and get the budget
That's important,
that's proposed.
because
See if it
it's getting
aligns.
approved on Tuesday,
If we're supposed to be.
and it might be too late to.
And Jen, get
um,
a clarification on what our
They do
legal
it throughout
responsibility
the
to that
day,
budget
throughout
is.
the week, it's like budget
We have
meetings.
requested the amount before, haven't we?
Well, we,
did when we were.
they voted to increase it when it went
Do
to
you know,
full-time.
Melanie, if we request the amount?
We requested an amount for increase. It stayed the same for many years, and then we requested that it be increased whenever the administrative job went full-time, and then there was a discussion of the, well, then it was approved too for the annexation of Adams Lily. And so whenever, that was 2 years ago?
Right, and I know that Leah would request reports.
Yeah, I
Right.
used to email Casey, but I don't think he works here anymore, so now I've just been emailing Seda
Right.
to let me know how much we have left in the budget. But I can't, other than asking her to
And I
look
think
it
that's
up.
how it's been up to that
So-
point, is asking for that report to know where we are at that specific moment in time.
We used to have like get a thing with the line items that would be like paper and staples and whatever, all that stuff on it, so.
So you'll find out.
Yes. Okay.
That is all
And
that I
that's-
have.
All right, for the update from the director, public input at this point.
Just really quick.
When we rewrote the guidelines, they were never really the way that I thought they should be. There still needed to be some work on the signage, and there are some things that need to be worked on. Because if you're having 16 and 15-minute conversations about signage, and then 2 and 3 minutes conversations about the facades of buildings, it's not working. So the signage application portion of it was something we got rushed through. And so, but from this side, it's apparent that there's some things that need to be changed. So
With the signage, you're saying?
one of the things like chairs and signage and things that don't impact the actual building, those things are always hard, but they were things that weren't ever fully resolved in the rewrite, in my opinion, because we got rushed at the end. But when you're making those little decisions, and then it seems like the same weight isn't given to the actual buildings, it looks bad, so.
Well, we have work sessions. So we have work session before every meeting, so we do get a lot of those things clarified prior. So maybe the perception isn't that we delve into it more, but.
And like for the signage, those guys weren't there for the work session to even answer those
Right.
But
questions.
I'm not talking about just today. I'm talking about like last meeting, that poor lady who came that was in the building across from PJ's. That was almost 20 minutes of discussion for a sign. And then the next application, or one of the other applications, was to change the facade of a building, and there was almost 2 minutes of discussion. So as somebody who is watching it from this side, which I do not want to be here, trust me, and this is none of my business, but just letting you know from this side, it reflects badly on the process. And I think that might be because the guidelines aren't clear. So I just want to say that. Thank you.
If no other public input, then I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
Second. Whoever, if Roy can have the motion, I'll second
Oh.
it.
No.
Or you can flip-flop.
Or go the other way.
All in favor, say
Anybody?
aye.
Aye.
I don't know how to turn this off.
Thank you, Shauna.
Hi, Shauna, thank you.
I'm not going to be here in the month of July. So you'll have to carry on without me.
No.
Yeah, when is the July meeting?
I don't know how to turn this off.
Oh,
July meeting would be,
Next meeting is July
Brandon Smith. Yeah, we had actually emailed several years back.
15th.
Hello?